Hello and welcome to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Steve Smith. As always, thanks for coming along and listening to my episode. Today is the third episode of my podcast. Really excited to be bringing it to you and hoping to give you some more information, a little bits and pieces about what continues to go on around golf in Australia, golf courses in Australia. So I'm just going to start off actually by saying I wanted to thank you for listening in across all states of Australia. I've just been looking at some of the analytics of the podcast, and I'm now reaching into some people who are listening in South Australia and also far on the other side in WA. So, welcome, guys and girls. Thanks for listening. And also, we've got some listeners in the US. So, no matter where you are around the world listening, so privileged that you are joining me and really wanted to say thank you. So, to all the followers and listeners, thanks a lot. And we'll start off with a couple of headlines of today's episode. So, going to do Walking the Fairways, which is the headlines episode of the podcast. So, a few bits and pieces that are happening around the place. We'll give you a COVID update, looking at some of the bits and pieces around some courses that are happening. We've actually got some news on some work happening in WA. On a golf course, and we're going to do a little bit of information on a course in Western Sydney and also a hotspot holiday area. So we'll look into some information that's happening there on a couple of golf courses and things in that area too. We'll move on to the Greenkeeper shed a little bit later on in the podcast, and that's going to be talking about the grain on a golf green. Some of you know what grain is on a golf green. Some of you have heard about it, not sure what it is. Others have no idea. So I'm going to try and talk you through some of that and how it affects your game of golf. Certainly from a greenkeeping point of view and the things that we look for and the way that it sort of will interact with your game. Also bringing in a new segment today on the third episode, and that is Vicarious Golf with Airswing Media. Going to have Nick Wall from Airswing Media join me to talk about his experiences in golf. Nick is, if you don't know Airswing, Nick is a golf course photographer. I'm a big fan of his work. He travels the world, travels Australia, doing work for golf courses, getting some of the most incredible images that I think I've ever seen. And certainly, if you've seen any of the photography online, you'll know what I'm talking about. But Vicarious Golf is basically all about living through Nick's travels. We've been bunkered down with COVID, or some of you might not be able to, for whatever reason, travel as much as you'd like. Or there's places that you've always wanted to go and haven't been to, places you haven't even discovered yet. But Nick's going to hopefully be a recurring segment, and we'll talk about what he's been seeing through the lens and some of the courses that he's experienced. So really looking forward to chatting to Nick. Let's get on with it. Walking the Fairways, June the 5th, 2020. Looking into WA, actually into Perth, the city itself. Now, there's a suburb on the south side of Perth in Jandakot, has a golf course or a golf club that was called Glen Iris Golf Club. Now, when I say just south of Perth, it's just south of Fremantle, there or thereabouts, only a few kilometres in from the coast itself, Glen Iris Golf Club. Now, unfortunately, Glen Iris Golf Club closed earlier this year at the beginning of April. It closed for good. Not sure what's happening with the land there. There's a few things that people are talking about, a few articles that are found sort of say whether it's being sold or whatnot. But unfortunately, the golf course itself is closed for good. Now, under the broader city where Jandakot is in, or the suburb city, however you want to break down in the overall metro part of Perth, is a place called Coburn, which is what Jandakot is part of. Now, Coburn itself is looking at, with the loss of Glen Iris, is looking to basically get in and build its own $8.6 million, as it's penned, $8.6 million Coogee Golf Complex. Now, Coogee over in WA, certainly not in Sydney. And that's the council. Now, they have a community sport and recreation facilities plan from 2018 to 2033. So it's over a number of years that they want to try and introduce some new community sporting facilities. And they're looking at a golf complex because they knew that this was going. The Glen Iris place was closing down. But the problem with that is, over with their plan of those years from 2018 to 2033, the design and construction of the new golf facility itself isn't scheduled to be designed or constructed until 2027 or 28. So the locals over there that are golfers that have lost the golf course are looking to be waiting for nearly 7 or so years before they come up with starting construction of a golf course. Now, that's if everything goes to plan from the council and the way that the world's working. Who knows what delays are going to be around in that time frame. So the council have basically said that they want a golf course, but it looks like it's going to take some time to go through the process and eventually build one. So we've lost a golf course over there in Perth. They want to get a new one. They're going to have to wait a little bit longer for that to come to fruition, unfortunately. But certainly when it does, I'll endeavour to keep you posted about how that is moving. Now, you might have seen I recently had a little trip out to Linwood Country Club in the western suburbs of Sydney along the Hawkesbury River. Now, Linwood was, along with a number of other courses and certainly plenty of property, earlier this year in February was completely inundated by flood. They were under meters of water. If you go to my Instagram page, you'll see I did a little IGTV clip with Superintendent Matt Bailey, and he just showed us how far underwater they were, and it was for nearly, in some parts, over a week. So quite devastating to the golf course overall. Lots of repair work to do with a COVID smash in the middle, which has made life difficult. But basically, Matt and the team have managed to reseed the greens that died and bring them back to life. Now, talking to Matt just recently, they've only got one green left that's still out of play. All the others that they reseeded have grown in really, really well. Really happy with them. And Matt said that it's just one, the 17th, which is still playing on a temporary, but it's only literally looking at a week, matter of days, thereabouts, before they bring that green back into play. And it's difficult going into winter to try and bring a green back into play from seed. Very, very tough ask, but they've done a great job. And like I said, Matt's saying that to me that hopefully before too long it will be back into play, and the course will have 18 holes back open as it was previously, which is an epic effort by the whole team. So well done to Matt and to the and to his team and Linwood Country Club. But if you're heading out there, know that very, very soon it'll be a full 18-hole golf course again for play on the original holes and layout, and will be enjoyable once again as it always was, because Linwood is a very good track. I'm a big fan of it, which is great. Now, the holiday area that I'm talking about, the hotspot that everyone knows and loves to go to, I'll narrow it down. It's in New South Wales. It is called the Hunter Valley. Plenty of people across Australia, if not the world, have heard of Hunter Valley. In New South Wales, it is a very, very popular wine region in Australia, very well known throughout the world, certainly for its reds and in particular its Shirazes. And I am partial to a Shiraz from time to time. But the Hunter Valley's got some lovely golf courses in it, and we can rattle them off. There's Crown, which is the Hunter Valley Golf Club. There's Cypress Lakes, the Vintage, which is a Greg Norman course. So there's a couple of golf courses there, and I love playing all of them. They're wonderful tracks to play. And some information that I've found most recently, which I did find interesting. It's called the Golden Bear Golf Course, or the Golden Bear Golf Resort. Now, under that name, you pretty much imagine when you associate the Golden Bear with golf, we're talking about Jack Nicklaus and Jack Nicklaus design. So this project is an on again, off again. Well, I've heard it for a long time. It's 1 minute it's on, 1 minute it's off. Council members change, all things happen and whatever. And new golf course projects, whether they be resorts or broader developments of housing developments and things, they happen. A lot of people don't realize it takes a very, very long time for them to come to starting to turn the first bits of dirt to build these areas and create these golf courses. So, like I said, it's been happening for quite some time. It was actually first lodged as a development with the council back in 2005. Now we're at 2020 and nothing started. So that shows you how long, 15 years, they've been talking about this happening and going through the processes with council. Now, as of the end of last year, so I've discovered the 4th of December 2019, I went through and come across some council minutes and comments and meetings and listened to some audio from those meetings as well. And basically, the council have given their final approval to the Golden Bear Golf Course project going ahead. So we're now into 2020. We've had a COVID, which is no doubt going to delay things yet again. But the final hurdle and the final yes from council has now been given as at the end of last year to this golf course. Now, just so that you know where I'm talking about, if any of you have been to the Hunter Valley, if you know some of the golf courses there, like I mentioned, if you know the Vintage, for example, this is going to be across the road from the Vintage on Wine Country Drive. So you're going to have two what will ultimately be some very, very well recognised names in golf course design. And to have the Vintage with Greg Norman's name attached, and you're going to have the Golden Bear Golf Course across the road with Jack Nicklaus's name attached is going to be pretty awesome, and it's going to add another golf course to that region. I'm a big fan of playing golf up there. I absolutely love it, and knowing that they've got wine, plenty of good food as well in the area, it's certainly a golfing destination in New South Wales. So having gone through, like I said, all the approvals from what I can read about how it's happened, it's finally been given its final say, and we're hoping to see when the day comes. They normally have time frames and that when they can start turning some dirt on that piece of ground and seeing if we can get a golf course happening. And look, I'd love to be able to keep an eye on it for you and bring you some photos through the Instagram page, my Instagram account, and see if we can show some of it commencing. But until I hear that it's commenced, at least the final hurdle's been done. So looking forward to seeing the Golden Bear Golf Course start all together, which would be great. Also in the Hunter Valley is a development on the plans called Anvil Creek Golf Course. Now, Anvil Creek is a large development, something like 12 or 1,300 homes is the overall scope of the development. And within that is Anvil Creek Golf Course is what's sort of sketched and planned out to be part of that overall development. Now, that is on the sort of northern side of the Hunter Expressway, which is basically east of the area that I talked about with the Vintage, Golden Bear Golf Course and Cypress Lake. So east of that, at a town or a suburb called Greta, is where Anvil Creek is looking to have the development done. Now, it hasn't reached, as from what I can gather, any sort of final approvals, but it's moving through the process of approvals in council. And it's been on the cards for quite some time, a number of years. But Anvil Creek Golf Course is one that's being done there by Graham Marsh Golf Course Design. Now, not only has Graham Marsh done a number of courses around, like in Sydney, Twin Creeks, Bingara Gorge. You move up north into Queensland, for example, you've got Palm Meadows on the Gold Coast, and Graham Marsh was involved in the redevelopment of Royal Pines Golf Club for the Australian PGA Championship that's being held up there, or has been held up there previously. They did the new course at Kalgoorlie in Western Australia, done Sutton Bay in the States and South Dakota to much fanfare. Sutton Bay is certainly highly regarded in that region, along with a number of other courses as well that South Dakota has. But Sutton Bay is a good one. It's even being involved in Sutton Bay still with what is called the new course, an expansion, another 18-hole golf course at Sutton Bay. So Graham Marsh is very well known in Australia, as we know, but certainly further afield and some other courses through Asia. He's got a finger in everywhere, to be honest. Very, very large portfolio has Graham Marsh, but Anvil Creek is one for the Hunter Valley. So basically at the Hunter, you've got Cypress Lakes, which has been there for quite some time, which is a Steve Smyers golf course, which is, I've got to be honest, it's mine. I've loved it since I first played there in the early 2000s when I was much, much younger. It's got some great golf holes, a unique piece of ground, and when the condition of that course is built up and it's on song, I think there's nothing more enjoyable. For me, I really, really love Cypress Lakes. That's mine. The Vintage, which is a Greg Norman golf course, Bob Harrison, that was designed there. Everyone loves that course. It's a well-regarded golf course. And you've got Hunter Valley Golf Course, well-established. Formerly, many, many moons ago, was by a different name, Portofino, but now it's Hunter Valley Golf Club, and that is well-established with a Crown Resort on it. Then you talk about Golden Bear Resort by Jack Nicklaus. Then you talk about Anvil Creek by Graham Marsh, you're going to have a plethora of courses to pick from in what is a really, really awesome holiday area in the Hunter Valley overall. So it's a really, really up and coming part of the world in terms of golf, and I'm looking forward to see how these golf courses unfold. And keeping in the mix, a little bit further afield in Cessnock, that's the base town that everyone thinks of when they think of the Hunter Valley. It's sort of the major centre, as it were. Now, Cessnock Golf Club was the original golf course in that region. And unfortunately, back in 2019, just early last year, Cessnock Golf Club, which became Stonebridge Golf Club, eventually closed for good, as it was. So the club, as it were, gone for good and closed up. Very, very sad day. I know there's plenty of people that know Cessnock Golf Club when they were younger, back in the day, enjoyed it, loved it. A well-established club in the area is now gone, or has been gone for a year or so. But back in February this year, earlier in 2020, the Stevens Group, which is a development company, unveiled a draft concept plan to look at rejuvenating the space that was Cessnock Golf Club. Now, what they have basically drafted up to develop on the land of the old golf club is an over 55s residential complex. We've all heard that many, many times over with different things, but they want to build a 12-hole golf course and 300 homes on that site. So they've drafted that up. They're putting that, or have put that, in the early stages to council to see whether that's something that will be allowed and that they can work through. And as a development company, that's what their plan is for that area, should they be able to make that work. Now, the Stevens Group, I know nothing about, other than finding out that they put this forward for the old Cessnock Golf Club. They've got actually runs on the board when it comes to golf. Who knew? They developed the Vintage Golf Club, which is also in the Hunter. So the Vintage has a wonderful name. Like I said, Greg Norman's name attached. And so the fact that those guys developed that, maybe they've got a good chance of making the Cessnock Golf Club site work under this concept of an over 55s with a 12-hole golf course. Who knows? But that is a wrap of the Hunter Valley. So there you go. There's plenty going on in that region. And like I mentioned, a couple of other areas of the country. That is walking the fairways for this episode. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now a quick introduction to my next segment. It's a new segment, and it's called Vicarious Golf with Airswing Media. Now, I've got to know Nick Wall from Airswing Media a little bit over the years, and I'll talk to Nick shortly about sort of his background and how we sort of got together and started talking about golf, and certainly it's all about his journey and what makes him who he is and what he does so special. So Airswing Media is a golf course photography business, and Nick is a golf course photographer and videographer. And I just want us to live vicariously through his travels as a golf course photographer. So on the line, I've got Nick Wall from Airswing Media. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks, Stevie. Good to talk to you, mate. Very good.
Mate, thanks for joining in on the podcast. Really appreciate your time. I'm actually really excited to have you on. So it's wonderful.
Mate, so am I. Excited to chat as usual. We always have great chats on the phone.
we do indeed. Now, mate, we're trying to tie in this time to get to chat. Whereabouts are you right now?
I'm hiding up in the trees behind the first hole at my local golf course, Byron Bay. I've had a few balls come in the last actual 60 seconds, so was planning on moving, but it's a big shot to get up to where I was. So I'm gonna safely actually stay because there must have been just a couple of gorillas, but yeah, I'm good, mate. I've got the sun just came out literally as we started speaking.
Unreal.
And I've got a view over beautiful Royal Byron. Which you and I have had a game here together.
We have indeed, mate, and we'll get to that very soon. But what a wonderful way to talk to a golf course photographer. You're actually out on a golf course. And I've got to say, Byron is a wonderful, wonderful. Not only is Byron Bay a wonderful part of the country and the world, it's a wonderful golf course. It really is a special little place.
It is, and it's come a long way. Of course, it's my family moved here to the Bay in early '90s, and
Yep.
you couldn't really describe this course anything other than a goat track.
Yeah, right.
It's, I mean, it's always had the bones.
Yep.
It just everything couldn't. I mean, obviously springtime and into summer, it was in beautiful condition, but you would never, what would you call it, an all year golf course. It dried off, it got really bad, and it used to be a great excuse to play bad golf because you used to just blame the golf course. But it's really come a long way, and we're hosting the Seniors Legends Tour Championship every year, and I think that's testament to how far this golf course has come.
Now, it is a big event, the Legends event there that you have at the end of the year, Byron, and you get some of the legends of golf. Roger Davis and I think Ian Baker Finch, is that right? Has been up there?
Mate, Ian Baker Finch, don't quote me on this. I think it was 2015, I'd be guessing.
Yep.
He came in here, everyone got pretty excited. He won it.
Wow.
Yeah, and he won it quite convincingly, actually. Pete Senior, I think, has won it nearly half a dozen times here. Pete was looking pretty good to win another one, and IBF just came from behind and took it out. And
Wow.
funnily enough, in his acceptance speech, he got very emotional because he said this was his first tournament win since he gave up golf, since the big win. So
Dead set. That's
So,
incredible.
Yeah. And mate, I watched him, our club captain caddied for him. And, I was talking to the club captain as we went around, as we were watching, and he was hitting shots on the last round. I think he didn't actually hit a ton of fairways in the first 9, but watching him hit from rough, he was asking the crowd and asking us members, what's the width of that section of the green there? And we're saying, oh, mate, it's only about 3 meters there. I'd be aiming for the middle of the green. And he'd be going, and he'd joke, I can't win hitting it into there. And he was hitting shots, 170 uphill out to a 3 meter width section of the green and sticking them to 1 to 2 feet. And it was unbelievable. It's pretty amazing when you see good players tear your local up,
Yeah, absolutely. It shows you a different way of playing the golf course.
And it's not an easy course.
Yeah. Now, look, and you know what? Like, that's what, I suppose we've already digressed a little bit, as you and I tend to do. We quickly get sidetracked on a great story about golf courses. But Byron's one of those tracks, and I've met the superintendent, Sean, before and had a good yarn to him about it. And he's been there for a number of years now.
Yes.
And he's been a key to bringing that course in at leaps and bounds. They've secured water over the years, which is also one of those key things that you need to have.
Yeah.
And the course, that's then been able to really bring, like you said, from the bones of a golf course that was there, they've been able to make it a year-round facility that you can go there and literally thoroughly enjoy any time of the year.
Absolutely.
Pardon me, any time of the year that you play. But it's really brought out the challenges of the course and really made it shine to become somewhere that the Legends event can be on and challenge the best around, even though it's considered a regional golf course.
Absolutely. And, I'm just big ups to Sean. Like, Sean came in early 2000s. They were building a big resort across the road, and they needed to get rid of and divert some grey water, and they approached the course, and we were able to get a significant amount of money to put towards some capital works. And that capital works is kind of what catapulted this course to where it is now. We had an incredibly great club captain at the time, Mark Wilson, who drove the whole course to what it is. And it's just come up in leaps and bounds. I mean, when the tournament's on, I would challenge any of the pros that have played the course when the tournament's here. They all, and I play in the Pro-Am, I sponsor it, and I play in the Pro-Am each year. And you'd put the condition of this course up against any tournament course in Australia, and I would back that. And pros who play here would back me as well. It's
Well,
beautiful, beautiful.
mate, it is, and a little side note to the power of golf course photography, and this is where this segment is really born, and what Airswing Media and yourself do as a business, the power of golf course photography. How did I get to play Byron, mate? Do you remember the story? It was you tagging me in some photos of Byron Bay, and I'm looking at it going, this Byron Bay? Is that right? Like, you're talking about that quality that they were able to bring out
Absolutely.
in the golf course, and I'm looking at it going, this can't be right. And I was actually showing my father-in-law some of the photos who grew up on the North Coast when he was young, and he's like, that's not Byron.
Yeah.
There's no way that's Byron. and for a couple of over a number of months, it sort of, I think it was ultimately a year, we eventually got to the point where I just said, look, I've got to go down and see. I'll take Nick from Airswing Media's hint, because he's sending photos and he's publishing all these photos of this golf course. It's his local. And I'm like, it can't be that good, because it's not anything that people flock to. It's not a resort course on the Gold Coast, even though it's an hour away in the northern New South Wales. It's not the Glades, or it's not, Royal Pines that everyone thinks of.
Yeah.
But I've got to tell you, when you mention quality of the golf course, when I first went there, I drove into the car park and walked out to that view that you've got over the 9th green there, and I think it's a 4th green as well, coming up to the clubhouse.
Correct. Changed now, 14th.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, they've changed the numbers.
The nines. It's confusing the hell out of everyone. Sorry, go on.
But I got to say, when I first saw that, it was like I'd found this oasis in the middle of a desert, which is the country farmland of northern New South Wales, and I could not believe what was standing in front of me. And it's a reasonable price to play golf there. It's not overfilled with golfers all over the place. I mean, I'm sure it will be one day the way it's going, but it's just a magnificent facility that really has come of age through a lot of smart and good decisions, a bit of the correct timing for things to happen as well, and you've got key people in the right places. But I get back to the power of golf course photography, and your photos, without exaggerating, are the only reason I went there. And now when I go up north, I've got to fight myself to try and play somewhere else, because I'm drawn back to playing Byron.
Mate.
And mate, it's and the time that you and I got together to have a game there, mate, it was a wonderful round, and I actually got to play with your late father, and it was a really enjoyable way to play golf on this beautiful golf course in a wonderful part of the country, with the social side of golf that you really enjoy. People who love the game and just get a kick out of being out there swinging.
Yeah, mate, it is good. And I live 1 minute 42 seconds. My kids timed it one day from the first tee via golf cart. And on a late afternoon up here, and to come up, I just wander up, throw the drone in, take a few photos here and there. It's just, it's a magical place, magical place. I'm really proud to be a member here. Really am.
And you know what? The essence of a golf club, and it's certainly a place like Byron, because I've seen it and experienced it. If you're a proud member and you're happy to talk about what you've got, and invite people like myself that were randoms that you didn't know, just to talk about it and say, come and play here, come and experience what we have, because I'm telling you, it might be off the beaten track, but we've got something that's worth seeing. And that's what I love about members, and it's not only members, but certainly people who have traveled and played. But if you're a member of a course and you're passionate about it and you know what you've got at the end of the day, why not talk about it to everyone? Why not drag as many people as you can to experience it? Because golf should be shared.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I really like the idea of sharing the experience that is golf.
Yeah.
So, mate, no, look, you've got a special part of the world, and you've obviously got the family set up there now. That's your home base, is Byron Bay, which is pretty special. Let's go back to the beginning, as it were. What got Nick Wall interested in golf in the early days? Somehow, everyone's got their own story. And then ultimately, what was the path that you took to being a golf course photographer and videographer?
So I was born and raised on the Gold Coast, and my dad was a mad golfer. Used to play, we had a chat about this, used to play up at Katoomba there. back in his early days.
Yep.
He was a member at the
Yep.
Old Lakes Golf Course. I've still got he won
Yeah,
won a
right.
couple of tournaments there. I've still got a couple of his old trophies from the Lakes. Got his
That's
little
awesome.
hole-in-one trophy from the old 18th there as well. But he
Wow.
was a mad, mad keen golfer. He spent the 70s on the Gold Coast, and they didn't do much else than party in the 70s on the Gold Coast, I'm told. So,
Nothing's changed, obviously. We're 50 years later and nothing's changed.
I don't think he played a lot of golf in the 70s. I was born late 70s. So they went up to Toowoomba to visit some friends, and Dad back in the day was a carpenter, son of a carpenter, and they started kind of,
Yep.
he went up there to try a bit of retail stuff and a bit of carpenter stuff, and he got back into golf at a beautiful course up there called Middle Ridge. Now, at the time, I would have been about 6 or 7. Dad used to work, Dad worked 60, 70 hours a week, so did my mum.
Yep.
Both worked very hard. But Dad would always play golf Saturday morning. It was always his 4 or 5 hours of the week. And I would play rugby sometimes, and I wouldn't see Dad in the morning. So a couple of times he'd say, "Do you want to come and caddy?" So I started caddying for him and enjoyed watching him play. And then I caddied for him, and he won a B grade won a B grade tournament. And I remember,
Wow.
I still remember too. I probably would have been about 7 or 8, but I remember caddying for him, and I remember him winning, and it hooked me. I was immediately hooked. I'd come out with him. I think he was happy too, because it meant he could spend more time out there if I played as well.
Yep.
So he was taking me
sure.
out, and I got into junior golf. Absolutely hooked on junior golf. Played all through my teenage years. Then left. Went to work over in went to South America for some work, and then into Europe, and then. Unfortunately, I was living in London for nearly 4 years, and I think I played 1 game of golf in 4 years. And I just, sometimes you just float away from golf a bit. I regret
Yep,
now,
we've all done
because I probably could have played some incredible courses while I was there, but I floated away from golf, and it wasn't really until I moved back home and kind of reconnected back to Australia, and reconnected with some old friends I played golf with, that I got back into the game, and was a member at Robina Woods for a long time, which I loved. Dad loved, and
good course.
Absolutely great course. And once I got back to Australia and got back into playing golf, I then forgot how mad golfer my dad was. And I think at the time he was playing 4 games a week. So he was playing vets on Monday, comp Wednesday, with mates on Thursday, and then comp Saturday. So he was. You would have never have met a bigger golf tragic than my dad. Did spend every cent of his money on golf clubs. He was bloody left-handed though. I was right-handed, so I never benefited. He was the type of guy that had 6 or 7 sets of clubs.
And you couldn't do a thing with any of them. You couldn't even steal his putter.
It was horrible. And he was one of those guys that he always felt that if you get 2-3 meters out of a drive, he was always on the internet, always looking for the new clubs, always trying new shafts, always trying new grips. At one stage, he had got some ladies' shafts that were pink, and he'd sprayed them because he was worried he was going to give him some shit on the tee, But yeah, he was just the biggest golf tracker, and he reignited that passion back into golf, and he kind of then reignited my passion. I've been a videographer for 95 is when I started. So yeah,
wow,
yeah.
Okay, so you know your way around the camera.
As an editor, so I was an editor for a couple of years,
right,
which was a great way to start, and then. Yeah, so it's 25 years, which is awesome.
Okay.
And yeah, I got kind of, I was still shooting. I was actually shooting golf before drones. So, I was involved with the tournament at Royal Pines. I worked at Channel 7 on the Gold Coast, and I used to go
Right.
to Royal Pines. I used to shoot a lot of stuff there. I used to shoot Barnbougle. When just after Barnbougle opened, I went down and shot some stuff at Barnbougle. So started a real love affair with that place early on. And
Yeah.
as soon
Wow.
as drones came out, I bought a drone and I drove down here to the golf course, put it up in the air, and kind of filmed some stuff. Took it home, put it on the computer, and it just floored me. I said, "This is the future of golf photography." And looked around and to see who was doing videography of golf courses. At the time,
Yep.
there wasn't really anyone doing videography, especially from drones. I was lucky enough as a young kid that I was taught by some incredibly good cameramen who taught me that they taught me to become a perfectionist. Near enough's not good enough. So I thought,
Yeah.
I want to set the bar high here straight off the bat. I went really hard at trying to get a good high standard of what I was doing, and I thought if I could do that, I could build a business doing golf. And a lot of that was driven by my dad. Like my goal 5 to 6 years ago was to be doing golf full time, 100% of the time. I'm not quite near there.
Yep.
I'm getting close, but that's my dream, to be doing this full time, 100%. Obviously, with seasons, it can be hard to be doing golf stuff in Australia in the middle of winter. But I've started to now creep into other countries and Europe, and that is then filling that little void. So yeah, mate, that's where it kind of was all born, pretty much.
Mate, that's a wonderful story of the starting off with the love of golf, the falling out of that love, coming back, the journey with your dad from when you were a kid to basically getting right through that whole process to the point where you're working in the industry, not as a professional golfer and a player, but someone who understands and wants to expose, on top of your own love of golf courses, expose that love of
Absolutely.
a golf course and the landscape.
Yeah, I mean, mate, I've been really lucky the last kind of 2 years. I've really seen a good jump in exposure. A lot of that I have to put down to social media. It's been a huge part of, and exactly what you talked about before, and you seeing the photos from here. But that's what it's about at the moment, and that's how social media was born. It was born to advertise, and I've been lucky now to visit some incredibly cool and great golf courses around the world, and it's really satisfying to see you post photos and to see people appreciate what you're doing, and then to see it translate into comments like, "Oh, Wazza, Smitty, we haven't played here for 6 months. Let's go and book a game."
Exactly.
And, then that it's working and what you're doing is working. And it's got to be good for everyone. Then
100%. Totally agree, and I think because of your platforms and social media like Instagram, for example, which I'm a huge fan of, and what I love about the game, I suppose, because I've been a greenkeeper nearly all my life, and I've been a golfer for most of it as well. It's one of those things where when you're out on the golf course, probably a greenkeeper gives me that sort of inherent tendency to look at the landscape, because that's what we manage as a greenkeeper. So I'm always looking at it, and I love the natural landscapes, that sort of thing. So to then like that and take photos of the natural landscape, because I grew up in the Blue Mountains and I had cliffs everywhere I turned, and I had wonderful views and awesome canyons I could go and take photos of at sunrise and sunsets. I could do the same thing at work on a golf course because I love what I did and that level of presentation that we created. So you wanted to sort of record. I had the old digital Kodak, first of the digital cameras. It was like carrying around a square paver. It was this big thing, but I did have the film SLR eventually, and when I had enough cash to do that, so I could go out and enjoy trying to take photos. I didn't ever consider myself a photographer, but what I did like to do was I was recording snapshots and moments in time, which is, I suppose, what photos do. And I got to see the courses that I work at change and evolve, and that's why I did the photos because I like to see the journey that we'd gone down and how we'd changed and evolved as a golf course. But there were times when you just looked at, you were there at 5:30 in the morning in the middle of summer, and the sun was in the right spot, you were in the right spot, whatever it was, everything just worked, and you go, you know what, I need to record this now. And I've got photos, we've all got them from places we've holidayed and all that sort of stuff, but when it comes to golf, I've got photos around that just give me goosebumps and memories of just that perfect morning or the perfect evening, and I just go, you know what, that was a wonderful time, and I just have a memory about that, and I loved it. And I love, for me, and it's what you do, and that's probably why I love looking at golf course photography and the platforms that I talked about just before on Instagram, is that we're showcasing a landscape. We're showcasing what we enjoy about being out on a golf course, and it's an easy way to touch it, to look at it without being there. It's bringing those sort of landscapes to your fingertips. And but we have the ability to go and enjoy them physically then as well, because we go, I've never been to Byron. Look at that. I need to go. And as you said, you get tagged in it. People say, let's go and play here. And the power of golf course photography, I think, is a huge marketing advantage for golf courses and golf clubs. And I personally don't think so. I think some clubs don't get it right. I think they don't understand how powerful that tool is.
Yeah.
So I can say that because I'm not a photographer. I don't get paid by doing it, but I sit back and I look at it and I go, when you go out, that's what people want to experience when they go out and play. They want to see that landscape. They don't go out there just to swing a club around and count how many shots. They love the landscape they're in. Some people love the British Isles when it's dry. Some people love the American green carpets. Some people love the Australian, the Australian versions of what golf is. Everyone's got their own, because it's a taste thing. Everyone's got their own idea of what they enjoy, and it doesn't need to be the most immaculate golf course. It's just something that strikes their taste. And I'll try and bring out what I love about. I look at golf course architecture as a form of art. So once a golf course is created, the people that are involved in building that golf course are effectively working on a piece of art that can be played. Now that sounds really abstract, but but there is so much that goes into it, into its feel, into its flow, there's things that are intangible about a piece of ground that when an architect looks at it, or a designer, or a member who wants to start a golf club, they look at it and they go, right, this is my ground. Look at Bobby Jones at Augusta with Dr. Alistair McKenzie. That was his piece of ground. That was their piece of ground to work on. And they weaved a golf course through that old market garden, or that old orchard, to create an Augusta. Now it's stamped on the world now as something incredible, albeit based around a tournament, but it's still an amazing piece of ground. They created a living, breathing piece of art. And that's really interesting. That's how I view a golf course. I'm going to throw to you now, mate, and I'm going to say to you, as a photographer, what do you see in that landscape? When you go out there behind the camera, you're not an architect, you're not a player, you're not a board member who's trying to guide a golf course to be the best or whatever in its region, or however it's viewed by others. You're seeing it purely as what grabs your eyes when you go to a course. You go, you know what? This is the place that I can really make some amazing photos.
It's a very good question because to be honest, I've been doing a lot of links courses, so I can look at it from so many different angles. I mean, links courses, no trees or minimal trees, lots of really good undulation. For me, it's about shadows. The way shadows form, the way the shadow feels. You've got the sun coming up from the east, setting in the west. Holes that run north to south are your bread and butter. Because you basically, once you've got the light coming across your hole, you're creating that sharp shadow. When you've got the sun behind you at your bum, you're losing shadow. It's filling. If you imagine the sun's filling across, it's kind of every little nook and cranny that the early light or the late light won't get into will be shadowed. So for me, it's a really hard question because a links course are actually my favourite to shoot purely from a technical side of things. I feel like when I go to a links course that I can get a ton of good photos, and mainly I'll explain why is that when you go to a course the Sandbelt's one of my favourite places in the world, but it can be really tough to shoot Sandbelt courses, and I'll tell you why, because you got so many trees that you can have a hole that the fairway will be bathed in sunlight and it'll be surrounded by trees and there'll be no light whatsoever on the green. Now, by the time the sun gets to the green, could be talking 1.5, 2.5 hours past sunrise, and then you're losing all your beautiful soft light. You're into that harsher, hard light, and you've lost the photo. You've lost the drama to the photo. So I like undulation. So I was just over in Vietnam and I did Ho Tram, which is 2 hours from Ho Chi Minh. And I try not to Google a lot of places before I go there because I want to try and find my angle for a photo. I find if I research it and I see that 5 other photographers have been taking this same hole, eventually I will find that hole because they've taken that photo for a reason, because it's one of the signature holes. But I kind of went there. I mostly go into courses and I haven't done a huge amount of research. I have a little look on Google Earth, looking down and seeing how the course is designed. But I went over there, very, very hilly, but just it's probably been my favorite one I've shot in the last kind of 6 months, only because it's a Norman course. It's got one of the most beautiful par threes I've ever taken a photo of. But I liked it because it had a really good variation. As I almost had I split it into thirds. The first 6 holes, second 6 holes, and third 6 holes are very different, but also created different challenges in how I shoot it and what time of the day I had to shoot them as well. So I've gone off a little bit off kilter there, but I'm if I had to lean towards kind of what I love taking photos, I have fallen in love with Ireland and links courses in Ireland. It is.
Yeah,
but
wow,
it also,
it's a special part of the world.
I'm always looking for. I'm just always trying to look for drama, and that's kind of how I approach things to my shoots, and things like that.
And it's I suppose in essence, because photography you're capturing what light does effectively. You're looking for that drama and the what the light does.
Absolutely.
As much as the terrain itself and the golf course, and how
exactly
how
right.
the light dances around those obstacles.
You can look at a photo. I mean, I just did some stuff out in Western New South Wales, and I was there for 3 days, and I was looking at a hole and I was thinking, I really want to nail this hole. It was their signature hole. You've got a fair bit of degree between the sun coming up in summer and the sun coming up in winter. And, I was thinking, oh, geez, I wish I was here. And I was thinking if I was here in 3 more months, I'd get this light coming through here. And I worked out on the last morning I was there, I think I was there right on sunrise at this hole. And I was like, nah, I just have to scratch this idea for this shot. So I went away. But on the last morning I was there, I think I was in that same spot only half an hour later. And the way the sun then pierced through those trees was unbelievable. And yeah,
righto. It's just you got to be at the right spot as well. Like you're learning, you're learning things.
I've always kind of I've always approached golf courses that wherever I am at the time, that's where I'll take the photo. I do plan to be in certain spots, but I have based pretty much the last 5 years on, I don't know if you'd call it freestyling, but, I go where I feel like I'm going to go and where the cart's taking me. I'll research, I'll look like,
Yeah. Okay.
it's not all luck. I'll look and say, okay, well, there's a gap in the trees there. So tomorrow morning, the sun's going to come through here. It's going to look nice. But I think, some of your best shots, and most photographers will tell you this, some of your best shots, you'd be driving from the 4th to the 11th, and you'll be just driving along a path and you'll go, bang, look at that shot through there, bang, and you'll get some of the best shots you've ever got. It's the same with weather. It's, if you wake up in the morning and you go, oh, it's raining, I'll stay in bed. One morning I was shooting Cape Kidnappers, and, it's a long drive from Napier up to Cape Kidnappers. And I got up and I looked, I couldn't see a star in the sky. The forecast was for rain. And I still thought, well, I've come all this way. I actually got 3 bad days of weather, but I went up there every morning and tried to get some shots, and the last morning I was there, I was a bit glum down in the dumps, thinking I'm not going to get any good shots. Went up there, met up with Big John there in the early morning, and he said, looks like we're going to get a fair bit of rain here. And I said, oh, look, I'm going to race down there to Pirates Plank and just throw the drone up. I think I got sun for about 5, maybe 7, 8 minutes, and I took one of the best photos I've ever taken in my life. And I could have been on the other side of the golf course.
Wow.
So you create a bit of luck, and you got to get luck. Everyone needs luck in their life, but from a photographer's perspective, it's I always feel like I can go back to that same course and I can always get something different. I think I've been going to Ireland now for 5 years and shooting the same course now for 5 years. I feel like I'm still getting different photos, and I'll mix it. Sometimes one year I'll try and do a lot more ground than I do aerial. Sometimes I'll do a lot more aerial than I do ground. But, you're always on the look for that different shot, and, it can be frustrating. Sometimes you walk away and go, I didn't have a good session there, but that's life.
Yeah, for sure. And look, and what you do as a photographer. Wow, how good's that bird? I love the sound of where you are, mate. It's incredible. Just to throw that in, mate. But you are a photographer, and photography is an art itself. So you create your image, you frame it, you compose it in your mind. It's like you said, you're driving around, you're using that light and the ground. So you've got these multiple elements, and you'll see it come together, and you go, you know what? Here's the spot. I'll stop and see how it goes for a few minutes, whether it's going to work. But you're an artist who's recording art. It's like someone who'll do paintings of golf courses. You do photography of golf courses. So, and there's art in that. That's why I suppose all golf course photographers
I think you
point
do
of difference in that as well, do they?
A lot of it comes down to post-production too. There's a lot of photographers that kind of you could call them old school. They don't like to do a lot of post-production on photos. I, for one, I mean, it's changed a lot. I mean, the manipulation of photos can be, as can be quite heavily done these days. I mean, you can't, what the eye sees and how the eye sees the different light and shade of what I'm looking at now. If I tried to take that photo, if I want to expose for something, I might blow the sky out. But now you've got these great things called HDR photos where you can blend and have everything exposed in your photo. I go through phases. I go through phases where, you go down a certain style. It's like people who do black and white photography. Sometimes they will pop back over to color and they'll go back to black and white. I've gone through little black and white phases. But it's definitely, I think a lot of people have a different eye for different, a lot of people like the top down photos, where you're looking directly down. So there's definitely, I think everyone has their own style. I mean, I look up to, there's a lot of great photographers around the world now. And, I learn from seeing their photos too. I can see the style they're doing in their post and things like that, and we all learn from each other. We all talk to each other.
Yep.
and we all, bounce off each other ideas
Yeah,
and
sure.
tips, and it's a great little community, the golf photographer community.
Yeah, no, look, I think it's great that everyone has a point of difference, and I think that's what makes you artists. I think like any, when I think of basically I think of art, I think of paintings on a wall and that sort of thing, and
Yeah,
people are drawn to a Picasso. They're drawn to, you know what I mean, different styles of art. And if you're a photographer, and like you said, there's plenty of golf course photographers around the world.
absolutely.
Everyone's got their own subtleties and own styles, and I think that's a great point of difference. And not only is there subject matter, because usually, like, they're all
Yeah,
world travelers, you've traveled the world, but you've got a home base, and that usually is exposed and exploited a lot more because it's so much easier to do. But you've all got a point of difference, and I think overall that's wonderful. When you're looking at content, when you're looking at images from different photographers, you can start to see which ones you steer to a little bit more, which type of composition you like, which type of lighting effects you like, and that sort of thing. And I think and like you said, top downs, whatever it might be, I think that's a really good thing. That's sort of seems to be evolving more and more as time goes on, and more digital stuff's available, more different cameras and drones and so on. And there's so many
absolutely.
more things at your disposal to
Oh,
use
mate.
as tools for the job, tools of your trade. So
Yeah,
that all seems to be making a huge impact as well on
absolutely.
what
And I'm kind
types
of
of
now waiting
golf
to see
course
what's
photography
coming,
art
what's
is around.
next. Because what it's been 5 or 6 years now. I've been dabbling in a bit of 360 stuff recently, but I think that's going to kind of maybe in the next
Yeah, right.
couple of years might take off again. But yeah, it's mate,
Yeah,
I never dreamt that 5, 6 years ago that I'd be doing what I'm doing. It's as a greenkeeper yourself, that it's exhilarating. That first, I'm normally arriving to a golf course in the dark. I'm meeting up with a greenkeeper who's so excitable. I mean, you see it. The passion from everyone involved in golf courses is just so alluring. It's like you even from the moment you get the job
yeah,
and they say you ask to talk to the greenkeeper, because you just want to say, I'm just letting you know I'm coming, and because the last thing they want is you to turn up and they've just bloody cored the greens. But you talk to the greenkeeper and they get excited that you're coming, and then it makes you even more excited. And then you turn up and you talk, and they go, "Oh yeah, I'll follow you on
yeah,
Instagram, and I can't wait to see what you're going to do here." And then you start feeling a little bit of pressure because you're like, "Oh, I've got to do a good job," but it's just so infectious. And I think we couldn't do what we do without these greenkeepers and the green staff. I mean, they're presenting these courses in the most beautiful condition, and it, what it's like. It's a hard slog. It's a real hard slog.
oh mate, yep, 100% it is.
Yeah,
And like you said,
I
you're meeting up with
know.
the guys, you're arriving at dark, and they're nearly looking at smoko at
And
dark
the, and the
before the
funny
sun
thing is
rises.
you're
They've
saying,
been
"Oh,
there
you're
for a
only going
few
to shoot
hours
the front
already,
nine because
depending
you're
on what
only
they've
going
been
to
up
rake
to.
the
So
front
it's
nine bunkers." And I go, "No, mate, I'll be over the whole course." And they're like, "Oh, mate, I've got to rake all these bunkers." And they're like, "Oh, okay, well." Mate,
exactly.
it's awesome, and it's an exhilarating feeling. I've been lucky that to be in a job where first thing at sunrise, when you're sitting at an elevated position, like I think the last time I think so, it was Royal County Down I shot in September last year, and I was at the highest point up at Royal County Down in the dark. Got there way too early. It was starting to get a bit cold, and I think it was the most exhilarating feeling I've had in a long time. Thinking, okay, this is the world #1 golf course. I'm here doing some work for them. I'm here at sunrise,
Yep.
and the mountain behind lit up first. Obviously, the sun hits this mountain before, and it's just a moment. These little moments you don't forget, And it was just a really,
Yeah.
really special moment. But you get these special moments everywhere, And And we're just lucky to be involved in the golf industry. I feel very lucky.
No, that's like I said, mate. That's the essence of what this segment's all about: is living through your travels, mate. And I know you're very well travelled, and you get to work with some wonderful clubs and courses, and travel around Australia and the world. And you've also now been doing a bit of work for the
Yes, he is.
golf course
Mate,
architects.
and I
That
just had
bird
two
is
more
really
golf balls
close to
come
you.
in, so the gorillas are back. So yeah, look, it's so I've been a big fan. Everyone's a big fan of Tom Doak, and about a year ago, they kind of selected some photographers around the world to help join forces with them to reshoot all their golf courses, new courses coming up. And yeah, I was lucky enough to be selected and honoured to be involved. And yeah, I've been I've been documenting some renos they've been
That's
doing.
awesome.
I've been documenting the build of Tom's first course in Ireland, which is gonna be unbelievable. One of my favourite golf courses in the world over there, Rosapenna.
That's special.
Yeah, I love that. I love it.
Yes,
And
I've seen plenty of your
working with
content on that on
OCM down
Instagram.
in Melbourne. I mean, I'm just a massive fan of what they do. I've been documenting a bit of Lonsdale that they've been building down there.
Yes, I mentioned that in one of my recent podcasts too, and that was from your comments. You said, "Steve, I've been shooting at Lonsdale for OCM, mate. Just wait, you've got to get down here and see what this is all about." And you keep saying how incredible it's looking.
It was pre-COVID, so I was trying to get down there in April, but couldn't for obvious reasons. And I've seen the front nine has now kind of come on and started to grow in, and I saw the front nine they'd kind of scraped it a bit, and I was excited by the back nine, but I got even more excited from the front nine. And there's a few holes that run along the lake there, but I mean, just the way they've been doing it, and it's Ashley there talks about a bit of a homage to some other older design golf courses there, and it's just. Absolutely, and it's
yes,
from
got
a
some template holes.
Perspective. It's nothing I've seen or shot before, and I kind of I spent 2 hours. I felt like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, wow.
I actually wanted to. The weather actually turned bad. Unfortunately, I would have stayed down there for an extra couple of days for free just because I wanted to keep shooting it. It was just, it was unbelievable. And it's going to be, there's already Barwon Heads. I was actually lucky enough to shoot Barwon at the same time, and that blew me away as well.
Well, there's a lot of talk about Barwon. It's climbed the ranks pretty well in the top 100 I've seen too. So I think a lot of people from Victoria and Melbourne know about Barwon. I've not been down the western side down there to play golf before, so around the Bellarine Peninsula, but it's a very well regarded golf course, coming into and the mix there, it's got some great history too. So
bring a lot of people around to the Bellarine now, and rightly so. It's going to have 3 strong golf courses. Well, 4 if you include the second course at St Andrews Beach as well. Oh, sorry, at 13th Beach, it's incredible.
At 13th, no, I could talk about Melbourne golf now that I've experienced some of it for a very long time. But no, mate, that's awesome that you've been able to be involved in those early stages and like you said, document how a course evolves with some of those great architects from Australia and abroad. And that's fantastic. Something else that we can keep tabs on you when we're looking at your social media to see where you're up to and see what's been going on around the world and Australia with the courses and their improvements and things. Now, mate, one thing, and I, like I said, big fan of golf course photography. And when I was on a golf course, I wanted the club to be able to entertain the idea of having a photographer to our course and do some work. We didn't get around to it, unfortunately, before we disappeared. But I see any type of golf course, they don't need to be elite level courses to look at introducing a photographer to get the most out of their landscape. You've recently shown, not so many posts ago, I think it's only about 5 or 6 posts ago on your Instagram page, for example, you did a shoot at Moree Golf Club. Now, Moree, for those that don't know, is a sort of a very semi-rural township on the northwest slopes and plains of New South Wales, and it's in a sort of very dry part of the country most of the time. And I didn't even know they had grass greens there, for one, on the golf course, and that's great to see. But it's they understood. The club have decided that they wanted to engage a photographer. They've engaged you to do some photography work and video work around on their course to bring out the best. And it's Moree. I'm sitting there going, it's Moree. But this is what I like. I love that clubs are starting to realise the power of having these visuals of their course, so they can then use them and market their space, and get people drooling over what they have. I didn't know you've got some great images
Mate,
already of Moree.
So
Tell us about Moree. Let us live
David
through
Wright,
your lens.
He's the pro there. It was a fair while ago, and he had approached me about, we want to redo the website. Would you be keen to come out? And I'll go anywhere. You know me, Steve. I'll go anywhere. I was intrigued by it. It was one of the places probably I did, going against what I said previously. It's probably one of the places I did heavily Google. I've got family in Narrabri, which is, an hour south, and I've played Narrabri golf course. Just a little kind of sandy golf course there, but I'd never been up to Moree. I'd been into Moree, but never played or visited the golf course. So I did Google it. I was quite intrigued by it, and I'll never say no, to go anywhere. So, my scheduling was tough back then. I went overseas a couple of times, late Jan and Feb, luckily just before the shutdown. And I had been in Vietnam, and then literally just got back. I think got home for one day, saw the family, and then jetted off out to Moree. So I came from kind of the number one golf course in Asia, voted in Asia, KN Links, to 2 days later being at Moree Golf Course. So it was very different.
Yeah, right.
Didn't know what to expect, but I was blown away.
Yes, indeed.
Because as you said, I thought it would be dry out there, but they had some rain, and they'd had a bit of water in the river. We'd been back and forwarding, and they were really keen for me to get out there when there was a little water in the river. For obvious reasons. But they got a young fella there. Tom Evans is his name. Who's the head greenkeeper there. Young fella, but just passionate. Oh, you
full of passion. He's keen as to, and that's the thing I love about. And I was the same. When you finally got the reins to your own golf course,
absolutely,
you'll do anything. You'll work day, night, 24/7, weekends, Christmas Day. It doesn't matter, to bring out what you can see in your mind that you can make it look like. And with the Mihai River running through the middle of the golf course, that they've obviously got a couple of holes working around with it. Looks like, I've only done Google Earth, mate. I haven't been there like you have now.
Beautiful par
but it looks like they've got a par 3 that crosses that river as well.
That's their signature hole. They were really keen for me to get some nice photos of it. I was a bit bummed on the first day because I just didn't think the light was right for the hole. It's pretty much encased by trees apart from the approach in. And the sun was coming up on like a 45-degree angle. But as I said before, in the end, I ended up, the intro to the little video I got, which you can see on my Instagram page, I think it's one of the nicest light and shots I've ever got of anywhere. Like just the guy mowing the green with the light coming through was just stunning. And it was a beautiful course. And to be honest too, I didn't get to play it only because I had 3 quick days there, and I wanted to try and turn a bit of work around quickly for them as well. So did most of the editing during the days. Desperate now after seeing it to go back and play the course, because it looked like one of those courses that you could play every day for the rest of your life as well.
Mate, I'm thinking about driving for 8 hours so I can go and play golf there. Obviously.
Yeah.
Because I love a regional golf course and the smaller clubs, and you walk into the club and it feels like family. You don't know these people, and they make you feel so welcome that nothing beats country hospitality. I don't care where you go, and certainly regional Australia, it's great. And you add golf into the mix, and they know their products, like you said. The greenkeepers know what they've got. The members and the committee and board members sit there and they go, look, where are you from? How far have you travelled to come here?
Absolutely.
Come out and enjoy our course. Do you want to know some pointers? And we'll sort of help you work your way around. And they ooze this passion.
And
it's like it's their own backyard, literally, because it is.
And
and I love that side of it. And you talk about the videos that you've done for there, and I love your video work, mate. I'm just going to throw it out there. It's not just your photos. Your video work it really is engaging. I don't know how you compose that in your head, but like you said, with that mower going along, and you got that light breaking through the trees on that green, it's just, I felt like I was standing by the river watching it all.
I was a videographer from the beginning.
It's so beautiful.
I've only really been a photographer for the last 10 years, but videos is my passion. Like, I've always had this goose, the goose pimple, or as my wife calls it, the chicken skin test. If I watch a video and I don't feel moved from it, I mean, I need to, the first, after about watching it 50 times, I don't get the chicken skin as much, but if I don't get emotional and get a feeling from that first edit, I'll bin it and go again. But mate, I think, all of my spare time goes into trawling for music.
Oh, mate,
it's
way
so
that you add that in and how you find the right piece, that, mate, combination you do so well. And I love, as much as I love the photography side, I'm catching your disease of loving the video side of things on golf courses, because you're right, it is the goosebump test. I see some of your stuff you've got from Northern Ireland or wherever it might be, and you've got these pieces of music, and it's like I'm watching, and certainly from some of the videos from up that part of the world, it's like watching the start of The Hobbit. I'm Lord of the Rings, man. I'm serious. It's a golf course, and I'm so encapsulated by what's going on. Mate, a truck could go past and take the front of the house off, and I probably wouldn't even notice. It's so gripping. I was
waiting for Gandalf to come over the hill.
There you go. Perfect. Exactly.
I mean, that's what, as we alluded to in the beginning, that's what it's about.
The White Wizard.
It's emotion. And then if you see it and you say, and then you tag your mate, and then your mate tags another mate, and then all of a sudden, maybe 10 or 20 new people have seen the course.
Yeah, exactly. I think this world of videography and photos in golf is still, as much as people do it, I think sometimes they don't get it right. They try to do it themselves to save some cost, because you don't come for free. It's a business, but you're paying for your skills, you're paying for your artistic flair, and there's a lot of elements to being Nick Wall and Airswing Media, as there is to being any other photographer for golf courses. And it's an investment, because it's not something that goes out of favor either. It's not something that once it becomes, it goes from autumn to winter, you can't use it anymore. Far from that, indeed.
I've been visiting the same courses for 5 years. I pretty much, and people say to me, what, they get you back every year? And I'm like, well, I give them a year's worth of social media. So, and they've always got a catalogue, they can always go back to this catalogue. Yeah,
exactly.
And if they start doing works on the golf course, they have historical. It's there for historical 100%. Purposes as well. But yeah, I mean, the good saying, content is king. It's keeping that impression in everyone's mind. And look, at the moment,
you've got to be front and center.
In Ireland,
absolutely.
They've had about 4 to 5 weeks of blue skies, so it's excruciatingly frustrating to not be there. And I had I can't talk about a couple of places I was going to go.
Of course, that's what happened.
But I was supposed to be going to a couple of unbelievable places next week, which I'm kind of, we can talk about that again in the future. Hopefully,
We will. And you know what? We'll live vicariously through that conversation as well, mate. I can assure you when it comes to. So, look, mate, you've got to hit off very soon. You're at Byron Bay for a reason, ready to play golf now. For anyone out there who's listening, who hasn't seen your work, it's Airswing Media on Instagram, Facebook. Where can we find you?
Same again with Facebook. All my contact details are there. Coming into springtime, I'm going to try. I'd love to do a bit of a push into some new areas around Australia. Got some pretty cool stuff back in Vietnam coming up again as well. But I'd love to. Obviously it's a bit of a write-off this part of the year at the moment, but
unreal.
Hoping to it's kind of going to be a good lead into springtime in Australia. So yeah, anyone out there is looking, love to hook up. It'd be great.
Absolutely, and if you're listening in and you're a board member, committee member, a member of your club, and you think that what your club needs is more exposure and to be out there more in using your course as those cues to attract people, Nick Wall and Answering Media, Nick is the type of person that you need at your place, and you can find him. Have a chat to him, get your club to talk to him, and see what's involved and whether it's worth your effort of doing it. I think it is, and I can speak for that because I'm not Answering Media, and it's a free plug for Nick because as Nick knows, and I spruik it around, I'm a huge fan of Nick's work. I love it. He's got me to places that I never thought I would have gone to, and if that doesn't say enough. So yeah, check Answering Media out. But this segment is going to be joining us on a sort of an ongoing basis. I'm going to have Nick come on. We're going to talk about where he's been, what he's seen, and we'll be able to travel where he travels and be able to use some of the content that he's got on his social media platforms to know just what he's been doing. But Nick, thanks so much for your time. It's been a wonderful talk to find out the story of who you are and what you do so well. And
mate, it's always
I'm
a pleasure
so glad
talking to you, mate.
as long as you're okay, I'd love to have you back and we can talk some more.
Thanks, Steve.
Wonderful. All right, Nick. Well, you have a great afternoon, and thanks so much for talking to us on the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast.
I do hope you enjoyed that conversation with Nick. It's really good to have a chat with a golf course photographer. As you can probably tell, Nick and I could bounce stories of golf courses around all day long. We could certainly share some good stories of places that we've seen around the place, which is really a lot of fun. And in case you're wondering, keep an eye on my Instagram page because I'm going to repost one of Nick's images of Moree Golf Club, some good work of a regional golf course that I think he's done recently. So I'll have a look at that. You can then bounce to his page, shares and likes and all that sort of stuff. So have a look at it. Hope you enjoy it as much as I did and as much as I do of his work and his craft, which is really good. Now, a small disclaimer and a little apology from me. I'm still learning the ropes with interviews on the podcast, so that you probably heard there was a little bit of overlapping of voices. Still trying to work out the recording process, but as I do some interviews, hopefully I will get better at them and you will hear them a little bit more clearly. So just wanted to quickly apologize for that, but hope you enjoyed the conversation. Now, as it stands for the third episode, I've run out of time. I won't be able to include Grain on a Golf Green from the Greenkeeper shed today, but you will hear that in the next episode of the podcast. So keep an ear out for when that comes down another couple of weeks, and I'll have that included on that. I may even have another special guest on the show. But thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the third episode. I'm always appreciative of everyone who listens to my podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment and maybe share it around. I'd love more people to listen to it. Hopefully get it out there a bit more. I appreciate your comments. So leave a comment on the podcast platform that you're listening from. Would greatly be appreciated. But that's a wrap for the third episode. Thank you again for listening, and come and enjoy with me next time you see the podcast advertised, and have a listen in. For now, enjoy the long weekend no matter where you're swinging a club and where you're enjoying a golf course.